because we have only half an hour left, so we can manage to go through the most important things. Okay, let's talk about learning of expertise. So thus far we have discussed how expertise is domain-specific. You need a lot of domain-specific knowledge, but also different skills. But how to become an expert, so to move on from the state of being a journeyman to being an expert, because this needs something extra. From the expert studies, it has been, it's a widely accepted finding that learning of expertise is a long process. Some researchers say it takes about 10 years, but you really cannot generalize that it always takes 10 years. It can be less or it can be more. But merely experiences in years will not guarantee expertise. So the amount of years is not crucial, but what is crucial is what is done during those years. So Erickson talks about deliberate practice. This means that a person purposefully and effortfully engages in learning and practical activities to achieve and also to maintain expert performance. And I talked about this earlier. What is important is that a person tries to actively go beyond one's current abilities, go outside their comfort zone. And this is what increases a person's level of performance. So acquiring of expertise or learning of expertise requires qualitatively different phases, and they are not necessarily linear. So learning of expertise can be considered a sort of a path or journey of competence building, but it can also include stages of regression. So it's not a linear process always. According to Lajoie, it's a transitional learning process where goals are set, monitored, reflected, and scaffolded. So it requires self-regulation as well. And according to Lajoie, expertise can be fostered by making the expertise trajectory or path visible to learners through models of expertise, feedback, and examples that promote active transfer of knowledge and self-monitoring. The Reiter and Skardamalia talk about process of expertise. So according to them, this is something that distinguishes normal learning from learning that leads to expertise. So what is done with the mental resources that are set free by normal learning? The Reiter and Skardamalia talk about reinvestment of mental resources and progressive problem solving. So what does this mean? In the process of expertise, experts reinvest their freed resources back into the activity of problem rather than directing them elsewhere. So, for example, normal learners or skilled experts at work, they might have a list of tasks they have to do. And as they perform the tasks, they tick them off their list and they're happy. And they might do something else with the free mental resources and free time. They do not engage in the learning process or working or problem-solving process. They might do something else. But experts, what was previously learned last time is translated into better articulation of the goal or problem. So this is the progressive problem solving part of the process of expertise. So the experts try to go deeper into the problem, articulate it better, and find the core of the problem. So whereas normal learners tend to aim at problem reduction, ticking off those tasks from your lists, progressive problem solving exhibited by experts lead to further growth of knowledge and skills as they try to go deeper into the problem. So thus far we have considered a lot of the cognitive matters or side of the expertise. And in addition to it, expertise requires personal interest as well as social support. The writer Gardemalia talk about flow and support of second-order environments, which have an effect on the motivation of individuals or the experts. And this is why they are important in the process of expertise as well. Second-order environments are seen as knowledge-building environments, in which the knowledge building is a community endeavor. Second-order environments provide satisfaction of people's diverse motives that they will want to belong. So first-order environments can be considered as factories or perhaps traditional schools. So people have their own tasks or projects that they are working on. But in the second-order environments, people might have their own project, but still they have a bigger aim at building the common knowledge base. For example, university research unit is a good example of this. The researchers might have their own project that they are working on, but still they are trying to build the common knowledge base of the research unit or the researcher community. I will show you a video about flow. Let's see if it works.
My name is Stuart, and thanks for coming through to check out this video, where I'm actually coming to you from a pet lab.
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and that's by the way how you say his name, dedicates a big part of the book to this idea that a person can make himself happy or miserable regardless of what is actually happening outside just by changing the contents of consciousness. And he goes on to quote Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius and Viktor Frankl, so this idea isn't something new. It's been around for a millennium now. But recently we've been able to gather more data on it. And I've talked about this idea ad nauseum by now, so I won't go into detail with it. I've talked about it in my videos about meditations, and man's search for meaning, and many other videos, but to touch on it briefly, people have this idea that if you just had a bigger house, you'd be happy. If you just had a nicer car, you'd be happy. If you just had a lot of money, you'd be happy. But that's just not how happiness works. Here's a graph adjusted for inflation that shows a period of about half a century where personal income tripled, but it didn't really affect how happy people were. After some basic point where your basic needs have been met, buying an even bigger house isn't the way to happiness. It's about changing the contents of your consciousness. So how can we change the contents of our consciousness? One of the best ways to do this is to put ourselves in a state of optimal experience called flow. Csikszentmihalyi describes flow as the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. He goes on to say that concentration is so intense that there is no attention left over to think about anything irrelevant or to worry about problems. Self-consciousness disappears and the sense of time becomes distorted. You've probably experienced this before, and it's absolutely one of the best feelings in the world. If you're working on your business, you might be so focused on what you're doing that 12 hours might pass and you have no idea. All of a sudden you look up and you realize you haven't had any food, you haven't thought about anything else. The only thing that you could focus on was your business. And the same thing applies to so many other activities, whether you're a rock climber focused on climbing your new record, or a master pianist composing your new masterpiece. It's an amazing feeling. You're so immersed into what you love doing, into what you're really good at, that your brain simply can't focus on other things. You're not worrying about stupid things. You're not regretting what you did yesterday or stressing about what you'll do tomorrow. It's absolutely one of the best feelings in the world. So, if we look at the flow diagram, here's how you put yourself in the state of flow. You don't want what you're doing to be too challenging, otherwise you'll have anxiety. You don't want what you're doing to be too easy for your skills either, otherwise you'll be bored. But it's when you balance these two that you end up in the flow channel. You're striving towards the upper right corner constantly. You increase your challenge, you get better. You get better, you increase your challenge. And the more you move toward that direction, the more intense the state of flow gets. So this is not really a how-to book, but our goal should be to find what it is that we love and then keep getting better at it and keep making it more challenging. Or in other words, the main goal is to spend as much of your life as you possibly can in this state of flow, because that is where you find this unbelievable ecstasy. And Csikszentmihalyi gives an example of the Indians in the Shuswap region of Canada who had settled down in a place filled with resources. And life was good and they had everything they needed. They had all the food and fish where they were. But the elders would make sure that the entire village would just pack up and move to a new location every 25 or 30 years. This way they knew they would have new places to explore and hunt and fish and new challenges to overcome. And it's a great story to keep in mind when you think about how most people just want to settle down in front of their TV for the rest of their lives. And in a lot of my videos, I criticize being in front of the TV all night or spending your entire day on your Facebook feed. And I often get people who tell me, well, what if that makes a person happy? The answer is, sitting on Facebook all day will not make anyone genuinely happy. If you pick a person who spends his entire day in front of the TV, he's probably not going to be the most exciting, happy, ecstatic person. So let's take a look at the graph again. Looking at your Facebook all day or watching TV puts you in the lower left corner of the graph, which is known as the area of apathy. There's no challenge involved. There's no skill involved. You're apathetic. And when you're not completely apathetic, you're probably sitting there bored or worrying about everything there is to worry about. So move away from that. Move away from the boredom, apathy, and worry, and move towards ecstasy, which is what you'll experience when you hit the state of optimal experience called flow.
Okay, that was a video about flow, which I think nicely represents what flow means in learning of expertise. So it's finding a balance between challenge and skills. And as your skills develop, you challenge yourself more and you seek challenges to improve your skills. And that flow is something that affects or has an effect on learning of expertise. Okay, now I would like you to take a minute to think about the people or the experts you named at the beginning of the lecture. Now, do you still think they are experts? Maybe, but have your perception of why they are experts changed somehow, or has your perception changed? What do you think? Do you want to give some examples or share your thoughts about it?
My perception is the same, I would say. It's just very interesting to learn the classification, the terminology, the concepts, the structure of beyond the definition, like the areas and the domain and the scale and the competency and the criteria. So it's interesting to learn what's in the academic research and how do they research this, let's say, phenomena of expertise. But I would say that the scale of expertise that in this presentation, or the way they classify it, it's kind of mixing expertise with competencies and taking away the word scale, which expresses the degree, the scoring, let's say from 0 to 10 of each competency or each area of expertise. So I would say that the word scale is kind of restructured here. I mean, I think it's competencies, these critical thinking, problem solving. These are skills and competencies that an expert might not even have. It's not required.
Any other thoughts in addition to this? Have you learned something new about experts or expertise, or how learning of expertise happens?
Are there strategies that show how expertise develop their, how does experts, or how do experts develop their expertise?
I think the crucial thing is the problem solving, that they engage themselves in problem solving and going beyond their current capabilities, and this is one way of building your expertise in a certain area.
Like an approach, generally speaking.
Sorry?
Problem solving approach, let's say.
Not really a certain problem solving, but just engaging oneself or challenging oneself to go beyond the obvious on your specific domain, and taking on new challenges and problems, and using your current knowledge and skills and trying to go beyond your comfort zone. But I don't think there's a certain way of learning to be an expert.
So there are no, let's say, models that has been set by academic researcher in the field on how experts develop their expertise according to these levels of novice.
No, I don't
No
think
models.
so. No models.
I think it's could be coming soon.
Okay, some time left and a couple of slides left. A few words about expertise in work life. Why expertise is needed in work life. So the requirements of the current information society poses challenges for professional expertise, and also for educational systems such as universities that are expected to produce the future experts. And the expert work in society today requires, in addition to vast amount of knowledge, it requires different skills, such as social skills, as communication, collaboration, teamwork. Being able to crucially analyze, conceptualize, and synthesize knowledge, and make conclusions and decisions based on inadequate information. You may not always have all the information necessary at hand, so you have to solve problems and make decisions based on inadequate information. Also, self-regulation, self-reflection, lifelong learning skills, and adaptive expertise needed to work in changing situations. And all the studies of expertise have studied individuals, but now the focus has started to be more on work life, on collaboration and shared expertise. So nowadays the expertise is not perhaps seen as an individual ability, but a feature of a group, of an expert group, where people have various expertise which are then shared, and shared knowledge is built. Then becoming an expert in the LED studies. Now let's recall what we have discussed about expertise. It's acquiring knowledge, but also skills to be able to use that knowledge and apply it in problem-solving cases or in different situations. So in the first year of your studies, I think you are quite much concentrated on reading different theories, articles about self-regulated learning and collaborative learning and CSCL. Then probably you are doing collaborative work as well, and maybe in the spring term I think you're gonna have courses in which you are solving problems together. So in that they are quite often using this collaborative problem-solving method. So you are given real assignments from work life, not just problems that are like work life, but real assignments. You are doing things collaboratively. You are working on expert teams consisting of you as students and also your teachers and perhaps other people from working life. Also, evaluating, monitoring, reflecting and planning are central in your studies. You're using and practicing on self-regulation. Also, you're using different technological tools for interaction, making your thinking visible and audible, and for shared knowledge construction. And you're solving the problems based on the theories you have read about and learned in the first year. And you're generating solutions to the problems. You are making new innovations, which can be seen as models you can probably use later on and build on those. So this way, you are building your competence, you are becoming experts in learning and educational technology. These are similar to what experts do. They solve problems, they use their knowledge adaptively, their skills. They go beyond their comfort zones. And this way they build on their expertise, their skills, and gain deeper knowledge of the domain they are working on. Yeah. Wenla asked me to list a couple of articles or books as recommended readings. I really warmly recommend Pihlaja and Skarnavalia's book, Surpassing Ourselves, because it gives a kind of a holistic picture of expertise and a really down-to-earth manner. And if you can, I recommend reading the book from cover to cover, but I know the first year students will at least be reading a few chapters of the book on your different courses. And then there are a couple of good articles by G and Erickson which describe different areas of expertise. But I would really start with the Pihlaja and Skarnavalia. And I also have here a list of references that you can take a look at if you're interested in expertise and learning of expertise.
You will get new concepts to define today, and I think this list will be useful for you because these are concepts that most of them will be found in these slides, and you can find the references when you start to look for information.
Okay.
This will be in Optima later today.
Yes, I then will send you the slides so
Yeah.
you can then share it. Okay, thank you all.
Thank
It was
you.
my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I have the concepts for you, and this one we are starting with team number 9.